Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today, we're talking a little bit about the 12th house in astrology again. Now, if you don't know what that is, if you look up your birth chart, your astrological natal chart, the houses are the pizza slices on your chart wheel. They are objective points in space from your perspective here on Earth at the time of your birth. And so the ascendant is the eastern horizon. It's where the sun rises, and then it goes around to the 12th house. The 12th house is on a cusp with the first house. So the houses represent contexts of your life. And so going from the first to the 12th sort of represent different phases of your life, and different, I guess, parts or contexts of your life that are illuminated by the planets that are in them. And then there are some houses that are empty, which indicates a lack of value about that context. So anyway, if we consider this, that there is sort of a progression through life from the first house to the 12th house. The 12th house is really the end. And it's also the culmination of all the contexts that are represented by the other houses. So it's the house of spirituality, the house of the unknown, the house of mystical level of reality. It's the house of existential death and existence and transformations into a new life, which would be represented by the first house. So because of the esoteric and mystical nature of the 12th house, there's really no limit to the things that we can talk about regarding the 12th house, because it is everything all at once. And so, I'll probably continue making these videos about the 12th house because I have a 12th house with several planets in it, and there's a lot going on there. And so I feel a little more comfortable talking about the matters of the 12th house than someone who maybe doesn't have any planets there at all, or maybe just has one planet there, which is kind of isolated or harshly aspected with others. An example of that would be, my mother and one of my best friends both have their sun in the 12th house, and it's adversely aspected. There are a few squares connecting other planets to it. And it's not really in a place that is allowed a full understanding of the 12th house and what it represents. And so really the 12th house for them, having their sun there, which is their ego, I would say that's not a great placement necessarily. Sun in the 12th house, it can be it can lead to a lot of creativity. It can lead to a lot of good things, but for the most part, it's going to be, sun in the 12th house, unaspected or harshly aspected, is going to be a source of great existential anxiety for you. And you're going to have this constant, mystery surrounding your own identity, because the sun is the ego, and it is about your conscious identity and how you want to show up in the world to other people and what you want to project. And so people with the sun in the 12th house can have a desire to come off as spiritual and deep and, mysterious and misunderstood. They can actually identify with a desire to want that thing, but it may just be a surface thing. They may not actually be all that spiritual or all that intense, But, it depends on the aspects. It depends on how that planet is connected, because we call the sun a planet in astrology, how that planet is connected to others. That's going to give it a different flavor, a different role, really. So the 12th house, if you have planets there, even if it's just one, know what parts of yourself that are represented by the planets are showing up in that context, in the context of the mystical, the unknown, existential, reality beyond what we can consciously know. And consider that what you want to do is make those unconscious parts of yourself more conscious. Me being a 12th house heavy person, it's one of my main values and one of my main purposes in life, I think, to make the unconscious conscious. Because you never really know what the 12th house is going to trigger. But by knowing which planets are there, if any, you can kind of have an idea of which parts of yourself are being triggered by those spiritual, mystical contexts that the 12th house represents. And by matters of the 12th house, you don't always know what ideas are going to come from that. Which sorts of things, what kind of creativity the 12th house is going to spark, which sorts of anxieties the 12th house is going to cause in you. So, it's really important to pay attention to what's going on in the 12th house. And if you don't have anything going on in that house, then maybe it's, spirituality isn't really important to you. You may not value the unknown and deeper knowledge and wisdom. That is typically a more conscious concern for people who do have things going on in the 12th house. So yeah, the purpose of someone who is maybe a 12th house dominant chart is really to make the unconscious more conscious, not just for self-growth, not just for understanding oneself and being able to anticipate anxieties and issues, before they come up once you get really good and become very self-aware. But it's also about helping other people, again, depending on the planet, depending on how they're aspected, depending on what else is going on in the chart. But we should use this power, great power that comes from the 12th house. I mean, it's everything all at once. It's the most powerful area, really, because before you get to a certain period of growth, you're really going to be guided by those unconscious processes, if you're 12th house heavy. And whatever part of yourself is in the 12th house is going to be guided unconsciously. So to really get to the root of yourself, whether you have your sun there and it's about like really realizing your ego and sort of dissolving that in a sense. Maybe you have your moon there, so you're deeply intuitive, and you have a deep like sort of understanding of maybe how the world works without being able to explain it or without having to having that explained to you. There's great power in the 12th house. So you want to make those unconscious processes more conscious. And it's extremely important to observe your own behavior. It helps to write. One of the purposes of writing is to rid yourself of the demons that would otherwise be guiding your actions without your consent. Writing is one therapeutic way to realize your matters of the 12th house. Meditating as well. Any spiritual practices, ritualistic practices, spending a lot of time alone is very important, because you're not necessarily going to, learn about the matters of the 12th house strictly through interacting with other people. It is a very personal yet very universal issue, the 12th house. So it's like it's you responding to universal reality in an unconscious way. But the more conscious you can become of that, the more value you're going to be to other people as well as to yourself. And the better your advice is going to be, I think. There will be an aura of wisdom overlying you once the 12th house has been better realized. So anyway, That's my video today on the 12th house. Probably more to come. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Cheers.